All right, welcome back to the Book Nook. You know we love to dive deep, and today we're going all in on crucial conversations.
Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High, that is, by Kerry Patterson, Joseph Grenny, Ron McMillan, and Al Switzler. Quite the lineup.
It is, and this book is a bit different, It's not just about understanding communication, it's like a toolbox. A toolbox for when things get real, when those conversations could make or break something important.
Totally. Those moments where you know you gotta get it right.
Yeah, and that's our focus today, unpacking those practical strategies from the book so our listeners can really navigate those high-stakes moments.
Effectively, yeah,
Yeah.
and actually see results. Not just theory, but real change. That's what we're after.
Spot on. So let's jump in. Where does Crucial Conversations say we should start? We're facing, a real nail-biter of a discussion.
Well, the book gets right to it and says it all starts with heart.
Okay, heart. Sounds a bit touchy-feely for a book about tough talks.
Maybe, but it's actually super practical. It means being crystal clear about what you truly want out of the conversation. Not just for yourself, but for the other person and the relationship too.
Long game thinking. I like it. But how does that actually work in real life?
The book has some great examples. Like, remember the story about the sisters at Disneyland?
Oh, yeah, the bathroom brawl.
Exactly. Both desperate to use the restroom, end up arguing, calling each other names, and guess what? It just delays them both from getting what they wanted.
Talk about shooting yourself in the foot.
It's a perfect picture of how emotions can hijack our good intentions. What we do in the moment can completely contradict what we really want.
It's like our brains go offline. And there's another example, right? The manager, Greta.
Ah, Greta, dealing with tough questions about cost cutting, but also, ironically, getting a fancy new office.
Talk about optics.
Right. Her initial reaction, pure defensiveness. But she could have tanked the whole conversation if she stayed there. Instead, she refocused. What was her real goal? Getting buy-in for those cost reductions. And that changed her approach.
Made it productive. It really highlights how our gut reactions can cloud our real objectives.
Big time. And that's why the book asks that killer question. What do I want for myself, for others, and for the relationship?
Powerful. Gets you thinking beyond the immediate conflict.
Exactly. And helps us avoid the fool's choice. That's what they call it. That feeling of being stuck between getting results or saving the relationship.
Like it's one or the other.
Right. But Crucial Conversations says it's not. There's often a way to have both.
Okay, so we've done that soul searching. We've got our heart straight.
Yeah.
What's next? How do we actually handle the conversation itself?
That's where learning to look comes in.
Learning to look. Is this about reading body language or something?
It's more than that. It's about developing this radar. A radar for when a conversation is turning crucial. Recognizing the signs that things are getting dicey.
Red flags.
Yeah, but they're not always obvious. The book talks about silence and violence as those big warning signs.
Okay, but isn't that a bit extreme, violence in a conversation?
Well, it's a metaphor. Silence can be anything from dodging the issue to shutting down emotionally, maybe even masking feelings with sarcasm.
Oh, passive-aggressive silence. I know that one.
Right. And violence isn't just yelling. It's anything that tries to control or force the other person, like labeling, attacking their character, or those veiled threats.
Taking away their sense of safety. Got it.
The book tells this story about a meeting, right? The boss is pushing his agenda, steamrolling everyone.
I remember that. The authors point out how the whole vibe changed.
Palpable. And often, those around us see the impact of our behavior more clearly than we do.
Makes you think, right? Like maybe we need a mirror sometimes.
Definitely. It's like that fly fishing analogy they use. A skilled angler doesn't just watch for the fish jumping.
They're reading the water, the subtle movements.
Exactly. Same with Crucial Conversations. We've got to look past just the words. Notice if people are getting quiet, defensive, or, going on the attack. Those nonverbal cues are telling a story.
Okay, so we're watching for the signs in others, but what about ourselves?
That's key. Learning to look also means turning that lens inward, monitoring your own style under stress. What do you do when the heat is on?
Because we all have a default, right?
Absolutely. Knowing your go-to reaction, especially when things get tense, is crucial. The book even has this style under stress test. Helps you pinpoint if you tend to clam up or maybe erupt like a volcano.
I think I know which one I am.
They tell the story of Tom E., right?
Yeah.
Had this history of blowing up at work. Angry outbursts.
Yeah, couldn't keep his cool.
But it wasn't until he really saw that pattern, that blow-up tendency, that he could start to change.
So awareness is the first step. Hopeful, right? Even deeply ingrained habits can change.
Absolutely. So we're more tuned in to the warning signs, both in ourselves and others. Now what?
Well, that brings us to make it safe,
You
Ron.
got it. Creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable, genuinely comfortable, sharing their honest views, that's foundational.
It's easy to say, but how do you actually do that, especially when things are already tense?
The book emphasizes two things: mutual purpose and mutual respect. And these aren't just fluffy ideals, they're practical necessities.
Okay, break those down for me. What do they actually mean in a heated conversation?
So mutual purpose means the other person believes you care about their goals, not just your own agenda. They need to feel like you're both working towards something together.
Like you're on the same team.
Exactly. And mutual respect, it's about them feeling valued, like you respect them as a person, even if you disagree with their ideas.
It reminds me of that example in the book, the supervisors reacting badly to their colleagues' eye rolling.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shows how fast respect can evaporate. A tiny gesture can shut down communication.
But it works the other way too, right? Like that story about the company strike.
Powerful example.
Yeah.
Huge divides, totally different demands, but they found a tiny bit of common ground, a shared goal for the company's future. And that was enough. They could start talking.
Okay, so how do we build that safety actively in the middle of a tough conversation?
The book gives us some solid techniques. First off, a sincere apology goes a long way. If you mess up, if your behavior damaged the safety, own it.
Swallow your pride.
It shows you recognize the impact. Then there's contrasting.
Contrasting.
Fill me in. It's basically using don't-do statements to clarify your intentions. Prevents misunderstandings.
Give me an example.
Like, hey, the last thing I want to do is make you feel unappreciated. I actually think your work on this has been amazing. You're stating what you don't mean alongside what you do mean. Powerful stuff.
And it can head off defensiveness?
Exactly. And there's THRIB, another handy tool.
See, rib, as in the baby thing.
Well, kind of. It stands for Commit to Seek Mutual Purpose. Recognize the purpose behind the strategy, invent a mutual purpose, and brainstorm new strategies.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It's a process, a step-by-step, for when it feels like you're on different planets.
Yeah.
You stop battling over your specific opinions and try to find a bigger shared objective you both care about.
Common ground.
Exactly. So by apologizing when needed, using contrasting, and trying SRIB, we can actively build that safe space for real dialogue.
Makes sense. Now, what about those moments when we feel our own emotions getting the better of us?
That's where Master My Stories comes in. And this is a big one. The book says our emotions aren't just automatic responses to what others do. They're driven by the stories we tell ourselves about those actions.
Wait, so it's not just them, it's us.
It's a game changer. It means we have more control than we think. We're not just puppets to our feelings.
So there's a step in between what they do and how we react.
It's the story we create in our heads to explain what's happening and why. And if we can take charge of that story, we take charge of our emotions.
That's empowering.
The book uses the example of Maria. She's furious with Louis, convinced he's deliberately excluding her from meetings.
Classic office drama.
But she separates the facts from her interpretation, and boom, she can approach Louis constructively, not just with anger.
So check your assumptions at the door.
And be wary of those clever stories we all tell ourselves. The victim, the villain, the helpless, all those stories that justify our bad behavior.
It's easy to fall into those traps.
They let us feel righteous, even when we're acting in ways that hurt us in the long run.
So how do we fight back against those unhelpful stories?
The book has these sharp questions. What are the actual facts? Am I ignoring my role in the problem? What's a more generous explanation for their actions?
Like, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly. And then, what do I really want here? And how would I act if I really wanted that outcome? Tough questions, but they get us thinking straight.
Challenging those assumptions. Okay, so we've mastered our own stories. Now, how do we share our perspective effectively without things blowing up?
That's the state my path principle. It's about articulating your point of view in a way that's both persuasive and respectful.
Walking that tightrope.
And guess what? STATE is another acronym. Handy, right? S is for share your facts. T for stay so story. A for ask for others paths. T for talk tentatively. And E for encourage testing.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack. Let's start with share your facts. Why is that first?
Because facts are the least offensive. They're objective. You're stating what you observe before you jump to conclusions.
It's like laying the groundwork.
Exactly. Remember Brian and Fernando? Brian focuses on the documented frequency of their meetings before accusing Fernando of micromanaging.
Solid tactic. No jumping to conclusions.
And then when you do tell your story, your interpretation, the book says, talk tentatively. Don't be absolute.
Soften the edges.
Exactly. Use phrases like, I'm starting to wonder if, or it seems to me that.
Shows you're open to other possibilities.
Invites dialogue, not a fight. Then you ask for others' paths. Crucial for understanding their side, their facts, their stories. Shows you value their input.
And the second T, talk tentatively, reinforces that, right? Not being dogmatic.
Totally. Choose your words carefully. Instead of, you always interrupt me, it's, I've noticed a few times I haven't been able to finish my thoughts.
Less accusatory, more about the behavior.
And finally, encourage testing. You're literally inviting them to challenge your view.
To poke holes in your argument.
Because the goal isn't just to win, it's to understand, even if that means you might be wrong.
Okay, makes sense. But what happens when they start sharing their path? Especially if they're hesitant or really emotional.
That's where we explore others' paths. It's about listening, really listening, with empathy, making it safe for them to share, even the tough stuff.
It's like being a therapist, almost.
Kind of. And the book gives us tools for this too, starting with simply asking, what's your perspective? How do you see things? It can be that easy.
Sometimes all it takes is an invitation.
But if they're still holding back, there's mirroring.
Mirroring. Like a mime.
Not quite. You reflect back what you see, their body language, tone, the emotions under the surface. You seem really frustrated.
Shows you're paying attention.
Then there's paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Restating their message in your own words. Confirms you understand and shows you're engaged.
Active listening.
If they're still clammed up, even after all that, you can try priming.
Priming.
It's taking a guess at what they might be thinking or feeling. Putting it out there gently, like, are you feeling like your concerns aren't being heard?
It's a nudge to help them articulate what's going on.
And throughout this whole process, remember the ABCs.
ABCs, like we're back in kindergarten.
It's a good reminder. Agree when you do. Build on their ideas if you can. And compare when you differ, but respectfully. No putting them down.
Finding that balance, common ground, but also honest disagreement.
Exactly. So we've navigated the conversation, shared our views, listened to theirs. What's the final step?
Turning all this talk into action, right?
Move to action. It's the book's last principle, because even the best conversations are useless if nothing changes.
We've all been there. Lots of talk, no action.
The book warns against vague commitments, unclear responsibilities, who's doing what by when. That stuff has to be crystal clear.
Otherwise, it all falls apart.
You talk about Howard Hughes, his dream of a steam-powered car. Super ambitious.
But it flopped. Right.
Big time. And one reason was the deliverables weren't clear. No one knew exactly what they were supposed to be doing.
A cautionary tale. So we need clear tasks, clear deadlines, clear ownership.
And even use that contrasting technique here. State what you do want, but also what you don't want. Prevents confusion later on.
Okay, so action is key. Now, the book acknowledges that not all crucial conversations go smoothly. What about those really tricky situations, the yeah buts?
Oh yeah, chapter 10. Yeah, but advice for tough cases. It's a goldmine. For sensitive personal issues, it's about respect, privacy, and being firm when needed.
Walking on eggshells, but also holding the line.
When you need honest feedback, especially in a hierarchy, you got to create real psychological safety. So people feel safe to speak up.
And what about rebuilding trust? That's often a huge hurdle.
The book says it's gradual and specific. Focus on the other person's motives and their ability to deliver. And don't hold past mistakes over their heads forever.
On it go.
When someone shuts down, like a spouse withdrawing, work on your own communication skills first. Build that safety in the relationship.
Lead by example.
If you need someone to take more initiative, be crystal clear about expectations and address patterns, not just isolated incidents.
Don't just react to the symptom, address the root cause.
Exactly. It's also okay to call a timeout. If things get too heated, take a break. But always agree on a time to come back and finish the conversation.
Don't just sweep it under the rug.
With people who always have an excuse, shift focus from the excuse to the actual problem. And if they're nitpicking, playing word games, call it out. Be direct.
Don't let them derail you.
And for those who just break all the rules, choose your battles. Focus on one key issue at a time.
Okay, so Crucial Conversations really does give us a full toolkit for understanding these high-stakes interactions and actually changing how we handle them.
It's not about being perfect. It's about progress and practice.
So listeners, as you go about your week, think about those conversations you're dreading, the ones with the potential for fireworks.
Which of these tools could you try? Starting with heart, being more aware with learning to look, building safety, mastering your stories, expressing yourself clearly, really listening, or taking action.
Start small. Experiment. See what happens. This deep dive was just a taste. We highly recommend reading the whole book.
There's so much more to discover.
So after all this, what crucial conversation are you now feeling ready to tackle?
Go out there and make it happen.